Good morning, respected madam and my dear friends. Today we are here to present you a visual presentation on rise of nationalism in Europe. We would be starting with French Revolution. It marks the beginning of nationalism. France was under absolute monarchy in 1789. The revolution transferred the sovereignty from the monarch to the French people. Ideas of la patrie, the fatherhood, and the le citoyen, the citizen, was adopted. French flag, which was tricolour, was adopted, replacing the royal standard. Estates General elected by citizens and renamed the National Assembly. A centralized political system was established. Internal customs dues were abolished. Uniform weights and measures were adopted. French became the language of the nation. French armies moved into Holland, Belgium, Switzerland, and Italy in the 1790s with the promise of liberating the people from their despotic rulers. Napoleon ruled France from 1799 to 1815. He assumed absolute powers in 1799 by becoming the first consul. Civil Code or Napoleonic Code was discovered by him in 1804, which established equality before law, abolished all privileges based on rights, granting the right to property to French citizens, simplified administrative divisions, abolished feudal system and freed peasants from serfdom, removed restrictions on guidelines in towns, improved transport and communication. Napoleon proved to be an oppressor for the people of the conquered territories. Taxation and censorship were imposed and military services were made mandatory. We'll also be looking at Europe in the mid 18th century. There was no nation status because Europeans never saw themselves as sharing a common identity or culture. Example, the Habsburg Empire of Austria-Hungary comprised French, Italian, and German-speaking people. Europe was broadly divided into two classes during this period: aristocracy and peasantry. Aristocracy, nothing but the class that was owning land, numerically small but dominated Europe, both socially and politically. They spoke French, which was considered the language of the high society. Families were connected through marriages. Peasantry, tenants and small landowners who worked as serfs, were known as peasantry, cultivated the lands of the aristocratic lords. The growth of trade and industrial production facilitated the growth of towns and rise of a commercial class of traders. Consequently, the new conscious, educated, liberal middle class emerged and popularized nationalism and stood for the abolition of aristocracy. Now we'll be looking into liberal nationalism. It means individual freedom, equality before law, government by consent, freedom of markets, abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Liberalism became the main concern in Europe after the French Revolution because universal adult suffrage was not granted to the people by the Napoleonic Code. Men without property and women were denied the right to vote. Women were made subject to the authority of men. Markets were not free as the 39 confederacies of France had their own laws which posed problems for the free movement of goods. There were no standard weights and measures and no fixed rates of custom duties which greatly affected the trade. Now we'll be seeing what conservatism is. Conservatism stands for the preservation of the traditional institutions of state and society, such as the monarchy, the church, social hierarchies, and family, along with the modern changes introduced by Napoleon. Conservatism as a political ideology arose after the defeat of Napoleon in 1815 at the Battle of Waterloo. The conservative regimes were autocratic and were intolerant to criticism and dissent. It adopted the censorship of press for curbing new liberal ideals, discouraged any questions that challenged their legitimacy. The Congress of Vienna met in 1815 for drawing a new settlement for Europe and restoring the monarchies that were overthrown by Napoleon for creation of a conservative order. The salient features of the treaty were as follows. The Bourbon dynasty restored to power in France. France was disposed of its conquered territories. Kingdom of Netherlands, which included Belgium, was set up in the south for preventing French expansions in the future. Prussia was given new territories, including a portion of Saxony. Austria got control over northern Italy. Russia got Poland. Napoleon's confederation of 39 states was not changed. Now enter the revolutionaries, upholders of the idea of liberalism and against the conservative regimes of the 19th century. Many secret societies were formed whose main aims were training the revolutionaries and spreading their ideas throughout Europe, opposing monarchical government established after the Vienna Congress of 1815, fighting for liberty and freedom from autocratic rule, emphasizing the idea of creation of nation states. Age of Revolution. What caused the Age of Revolution? It was influenced by the new ideas of the Enlightenment. The American Revolution from 1765 to 1783 is usually considered the starting point of the Age of Revolution. It in turn inspired the French Revolution of 1789, which rapidly spread to the rest of Europe through its wars. How did the Age of Revolution impact the world? The Age of Revolution took place between 1763 to 1848 and was characterized by major revolutions, mostly in Europe and America, that profoundly impacted the course of modern history. The French Revolution between 1789 to 1799 resulted in the overthrow of King Louis XVI and the establishment of the First French Republic. What caused the revolution of 1848 in Europe? Discontent at poor governance and life was a major cause of the revolutions of 1848. Bad harvests and economic depressions in the year leading up to the 1848 created massive discontent throughout all the Europe, and food riots were common. Unemployment was also created due to the economic crisis. What were the causes and effects of revolution in Europe in 1830 and 1848? The widespread dissatisfaction with the political leadership, the demand for more participation and democracy, the demands of the working classes, the upsurge of nationalism were some causes of the revolution. So we've been studying about the age of revolution. What is it? Why is it? Why is it so important actually? पढ़ना ही क्यों है यार? This was often because the revolutionary masses lacked organization and unity in the long term. However, the revolutions of 1848 were very important because they set the stage for the birth of a number of European countries. The making of Germany and Italy. देखो यार मैं इतना शाना तो हूँ नहीं तुमको एकदम हाई फाई रैप चिक वाला ऐसा समझा सकूँ नहीं. That's why I'm going to give you a brief summary. Nationalist feelings were widespread among middle-class Germans who in 1848 to unite the different regions by the German Confederation into a nation-state governed by an elected parliament. The liberal initiative to nation-building was, however, repressed by the combined forces for the monarchy and military, supported by the large landowners called Junkers of Prussia. From then on, Prussia took on the leadership of the movement for national unification. Its chief minister, Otto von Bismarck, was the architect of this process carried, but with the help of the Prussian army and bureaucracy. 3 wars over 7 years with Austria, Prussia and France ended in the Prussian victory and completed the process of unification. कितना टाइम लगा होगा यार, कितने लोग मरे होंगे सच में, लेकिन त्रिपाठी बच गया होगा. In January 1871, the Prussian king William I was proclaimed German emperor in a ceremony held at Versailles. Now we will be visualizing the nation. Artists in the 18th and 19th centuries found a way out by personifying a nation. In other words, they represented a country as if it were a person. Nations were then portrayed as female figures. The nation did not stand for any particular woman in real life. Rather, it sought to give the abstract idea of the nation in a concrete form. That is, the female figure became an allegory of the nation. After this, so many countries used the same symbol, female, like Marianne in France, and Germania in Germany. We appreciate your patience and thank you for your time. हेलो अभी किधर अभी एक टॉपिक बचा है यार वेट यहीं बैठो लाइट्स ऑन गाइस नाउ दिस इज द लास्ट टॉपिक ऑफ दिस चैप्टर इसके बाद चैप्टर टोटली खत्म फिनिश ओके इट्स नॉट लाइक द अदर चैप्टर्स एंड में आफ्टर द टॉपिक फिनिश गाइस दिस इज द येलो बॉक्स लर्न करके आना नथिंग लाइक दैट अगर होगा एनसीईआरटी वालों को गाली देने का नॉट ऋषि ओके Now, nationalism and imperialism was the most serious source of nationalist tension in Europe after 1871 was the area called the Balkans. The Balkans was a region of geographical and ethnic variation comprising modern-day Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, Macedonia, Croatia, Bosnia, Slovenia, Serbia, Montenegro, whose inhabitants were broadly known as Slavs. A large part of Balkans was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. The spread of the idea of romantic nationalism in the Balkans together with the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire made this region very explosive. Boom! Although in the 19th century the Ottoman Empire had sought to strengthen itself through modernization and internal reforms, but with very little success. One by one, its European subject nationalities broke away from its control and declared independence. The Balkan people, their claims for independence or political rights are nationalistic and use history to prove that they had once been independent but had subsequently been subjugated by foreign powers. Hence, the rebellions nationalities in the Balkans thought of their struggles as attempts to win back their long lost independence. Now, we thank you for your patience because we totally completed the chapter. On behalf of my teammates Kshitij and Ronit and me Rishi, thank you.